Hey everyone, I'm Aaron. That's my identical twin brother Adam. You're in a baseball brouhaha. It's a daily baseball trivia fracas. Today we're squabbling about wins with no hits. Adam, I know you have a question on deck. Let's talk about it. Let's let the tensions rise.
Tensions are high today for sure. We have 6 teams in history have won a game being no hit. They got no hits but still won the game. And in those 6 games, they scored a total of 11 runs. What's the most common way that they scored these runs without getting any hits?
Okay, let's see it. Let's see it.
So this is brought to us from a game, minor league baseball game, actually, a little inspiration for this question, where the Chattanooga Lookouts won 7-5 despite being no hit. They scored all 7 of those runs in the last inning, which was the 7th. This was a doubleheader. And so, of course, we focus on major league games. So we're thinking about teams that have major league teams that have been no hit yet still won the game. So this has happened 6 times. They scored a combined 11 runs. What's the most common way that these teams scored? Is it bases loaded walk, error, fielder's choice, sacrifice fly, or wild pitch?
Yeah, this one, for not really any clear reason in particular, I went sacrifice fly. All of these are reasonable ways, and people score without getting hit all the time in these different ways. But for these particular games, I went sacrifice fly. How about you?
I went with bases loaded walk, thinking towards the end of the game, a pitcher's getting tired. They tend to lose the control. And that's where we see walks and perfect games ended, that kind of thing. So I went with bases loaded walk. Right, okay. So you're sacrifice fly. I'm bases loaded walk. Let's take a peek. And we are both incorrect.
Okay. Let's do it.
Correct answer is error. So that happened. Error, yeah. 6 runs were scored on errors. 3 on one play alone, which we'll get to next.
4 in that same game.
That's right. So 6 errors, 6 on an error, 3 on fielder's choice, 1 on wild pitch, 1 on sacrifice fly, 0, surprising to me, 0 on bases loaded walk.
Yeah. It's not like bases loaded walk is a super uncommon occurrence here. So, so that's interesting. But you have something we want to talk about July 1st, 1990. Why don't you launch us in here and let's talk a little bit about this quirky game.
Yeah, so this is one of these games, and the game that had the most runs scored by the winning team with no hits. And this was the New York Yankees playing at Chicago, the Chicago White Sox. And Andy Hawkins throwing a no-hitter. And actually, this was a dueling perfect game into the 5th, dueling no-hitter into the 6th, and then Andy Hawkins continued on through the 8th. And I'll let you take it from there on some of the wackiness that happened afterward.
Yeah, so Andy Hawkins goes into the 8th inning. He gets the first 2 guys out. Sammy Sosa hits a ground ball to Mike Blowers at third base, who backhanded play, fumbles the ball, doesn't throw him out at first base. Originally, it was scored a hit, but the official scorer, they went back and they conferred and they said, no, it's an error. And the official scorer, who doesn't put it up on the scoreboard, said, no, he had an error the whole way. So we had a little controversy. There were some groans out of the Yankee dugout about this one, and or the White Sox dugout. And so the inning continues. Hawkins loads the bases. And then I feel really sorry for Andy Hawkins because he had to deal with Jim Leyritz playing left field, much more of a natural catcher. So let's imagine your catcher playing left field for you. So anyway, Hawkins gives up a fly ball. Winds are swirling inside the stadium. Fly ball to Jim Leyritz. It's sunny. Winds are swirling. Hits off his glove. He doesn't just drop it. It rolls all the way to the corner All 3 runs score. Robin Ventura, the batter, gets to second base. Next guy up comes up, hits a fly ball to right field. Jesse Barfield has the same issue. Wind swirling, bounces off his glove. Robin Ventura scores, and we've got a 4-0 game with 2 errors. And this is an unfortunate event. This happens about once, twice a year. Last year, there was a Mariners game where the wind was just, it was unplayable for a pop-up. And so you feel for these guys, but they got credited with errors, and such as it is.
Yeah, and this date was unique in this way, but also it was part of a weekend of no-hitters. This was one of 3 no-hitters thrown that weekend, the other by the A's Dave Stewart and the Dodgers Fernando Valenzuela. Stewart and Valenzuela, the more traditional no-hitter, got the win in theirs. But just a wild weekend. Perhaps another trivia question coming down the pipe somewhere about no-hitters in short span of time. But we're going to take on Andy Hawkins next here. He had a funky year that year. And so Andy Hawkins throws this no-hitter, loses. His next start, he throws a shutout into the 12th, and he is actually the last starting pitcher to have gone into the 12th inning. So no one since him.
Wow.
His next start after that, the Yankees lose a rain-shortened no-hitter to the White Sox thrown by Melito Perez, which is not an official no-hitter because he didn't throw 9 innings. But a funky little run of games there for Andy Hawkins.
Yeah, and so Andy Hawkins had a really interesting 1990 season as well, because earlier in the season he pitched quite poorly. And so the Yankees basically said, hey, we can demote you to AAA, or we can release or trade you in some fashion. He chose the latter, wanted to be released or traded. Mike Witt was scheduled for his next for the next start. He got injured. Andy Hawkins comes back into the rotation. He's still terrible through June, and then he throws this no-hitter. So again, the quirkiness of no-hitters is just it's strange as far as how they happen, because of this run, this little mini run that he goes on here after basically being shipped to the minor leagues and then brought back up because they didn't have anybody else to throw. So Andy Hawkins has a wacky 1990, and here we have this obscure stat. And on top of that, you talked about that Melito Perez game not counting because of 7 innings. Originally, they counted this as a no-hitter. Some no-hitter committee or whatever however they powwow this together, went back later and reviewed the rules and said it has to be 9 innings. So even though he threw a full game, the whole game was complete, a 9-inning like regular game, Andy Hawkins doesn't get credit for that no-hitter anymore. It doesn't count. If you look up no-hitters, it doesn't count. You'll see this in the quirky section.
Yeah. And another little fun piece of Andy Hawkins trivia, probably not fun for him, but as a member of the Yankees, their rival is the Red Sox. He started 3 games at Fenway Park. In those 3 games, he threw a combined 1 inning and gave up 18 earned runs.
Yeah.
So not an unusual stat there, not one that he's probably super excited about, but just adding to the quirky Andy Hawkins trivia we got going there.
Yes, indeed. So,
but it's not just no-hitters that we're looking at today, because it's also difficult to score runs and win if you get just 1 hit. So, and I was thinking that this is also somewhat rare. So no hits and win has happened 6 times. But 1 hit and win has actually happened 82 times in history.
Yeah.
One notable one, the game where the winning team scored the most runs, was the Chicago White Sox defeated the Washington Senators in 1909 6-4 on 1 hit. They scored all 6 runs in the second inning. The Senators pitcher was Dolly Gray, who set at the time a record of walking 8 batters in 1 inning, including 7 in a row.
The 7 in a row. You get pulled for stuff like that nowadays.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's hilarious. So in looking at this, I love looking at the quirky stuff. So the one I found some interesting information on was not the highest scoring. It was a 1-0 game. May 26, 1959. We've got Braves at the Pirates, and the Braves win this game 1-0. And the reason that was so famous is that the pitcher for the Pirates, Harvey Haddix, had a perfect game into the 13th inning. So not this just 9.
Okay.
Perfect game into the 13th inning. Felix Mantilla reaches on a throwing error. Then Hank Aaron, so then a sacrifice bunt. Hank Aaron is then intentionally walked. So, the perfect game is now gone, but we still got the no-hitter intact here. And Joe Adcock comes up to bat, hits a 3-run homer over the fence. Now, so it's like a walk. So he goes over the fence, but Hank Aaron thought the ball hit the fence. So he sort of cut off his trip to the plate. Joe Adcock then passes Hank Aaron on the bases, so he's out now. So yet instead of a 3-run homer, you have 1-run score. And the thing that was hilarious to me is the pitcher for the Braves, Lou Burdett, also pitched all 13 innings. So both Lou and Harvey pitched all 13 innings. At the end of the game, Harvey calls from the Milwaukee dugout over to the Pittsburgh Pirates dugout for Harvey Haddix, and he says, "Harvey, you deserve to win, but I scattered all my hits and you bunched your 1." Oh, it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah. Some quirky 1-hit trivia there. A little story time here. So a little bit more on Dolly Gray. So in this game, he ended up walking 11 players. Every single White Sox player walked at least once. We had the 7 in a row. And his career did not move in an upward trajectory from there. He finished with a 15-51 record.
Wow, that's bad.
Still one of the worst records of all time of players who have 50 decisions or more. And as I was doing some research on Dolly Gray, I came across an unrelated Dolly Gray actress who will be appearing in this year's remake of the movie White Men Can't Jump. Excited for that?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, my story time is that if ever you cannot wait to see a lot of runs and no hits. What you need to do is find yourself a little league game, 9-year-olds in particular, rec league. That's what you need to do. And you will find all the walks, wild pitches, advancement, stolen bases, all the stuff that you thought you could never get enough of. Let me tell you what. And I know this because I coached my daughter doing this last year, and we had a great time. The season was fun. But let me tell you what. How many games we had next to 0 hits. So that's a lot of walks. And, we won. I think there was one game we won about I think it was 13-11. And I don't think we got a hit the whole game. So
setting records there.
Setting records.
Yeah. Well, that's about going to do it for us today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. A special thanks to StatHead, Sabermetrics, and Minor League Baseball for this fun topic for us to discuss today. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Join us tomorrow for another episode and another fun trivia experience, comment below. You can also comment on our Twitter page if there's a question that you've got burning or something you want us to investigate. Subscribe. We look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.